Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming on what is a spectacularly sunny evening in Cornwall. It probably is there, judging from Jazz and Camilla's screens. It looks really nice. But tonight we're launching Camilla's Epic. Epic writes back to the traditions of walking in romantic and modernist literature, mapping the world as it appears immediately and sewing loops through the land with your feet. The book is printed on Mohawk Superfine and section sewn with Tintoretto Salon Anise covers, and the map detail on the cover is in a rather lovely, I don't know if you guys can see this, it's very fine foiling work. It's a very beautiful book. Reading with Camilla this evening is Jazmine Linklater, whose Figure of Motion we published last year. And Luke's going to be putting links in the chat all the way through the evening, just so that you know where you can go and look at both Camilla and Jazz's book. And the order of running this evening will be Jazz, and then Camilla, and then a question and answer session at the end. So I'll introduce Jazz first. Jazmine Linklater is a poet and writer based in Manchester, where she is a co-founder and organiser of No Matter, a queer feminist performance series and occasional publisher. Her pamphlet Figure of Motion was published by us, Guillemot Press, last year. A manifesto, Future Notes Towards an Alternative, is currently on display at the Harris Gallery in Preston. She runs workshops for creative industries, Trafford, and sits on the editorial board of Broken Sleep Books. I'm going to hand over to Jazz now. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sarah. I hope you guys can hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Cool. It's really nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I'm really excited to hear Camilla read from this book. I've been reading it for a couple of weeks and it's amazing, and I just can't wait to hear you read from it. So I'm not going to read for too long because I know that is the main event. So to just crack straight on, I suppose I just wanted to start by reading a poem from an older pamphlet that was actually published a few years ago. And one nice thing that happened when I opened it up was that a flyer fell out for a night here in Manchester for the other room, the 10th birthday, and Camilla is there at the top from 2018. So that's the first time I saw Camilla read. So that's like really nice that happened to like welcome me back to being in the same space as you. I want to read from this pamphlet, Toward Passion According, that came out in 2017. It was published by Callie Azar. So I just want to read this for Callie. Lyrical Dance. Sometime the hang clouds very low, and I think of girls saying I in films, keeping, repeating, reaching for, you can go away instead of keep. I saw shoulder tension interrupt your line, your spiral containing its height, real unflickering your lightful fiction. Long time takes its return to go going again. Body rebuild measure my line, illusion eye imitates retrospective feel and over utterance you're heard. There is never another who speaks. Blame your corrupted eloquence. Come down from there, you're very frail. I want you condensed, tin-canned and cute, on the balls of your feet, shoeless arabesque, between cat and dog and flower pot. I think that quite a lot of us have been thinking maybe quite intensively over the past months and weeks, but especially the past few days, thinking intensively about friendships and friends like near and far. So Sarah mentioned in her introduction that I was commissioned by the Preston Gallery, the Harris, to write something for an exhibition called Altogether Different. It was commissioned by the LGBT working group, and so I kind of wrote this sort of manifesto. But because I've been thinking so much just about like my relationships and friends, and you know, a lot of people went into writing this, so I thought I would just read some of that for you. You can see it here. There are free copies at Preston, in Preston at the Harris, if you want to go there and get one. And I've also got loads of copies. They're not for sale anywhere, so like, give me a shout and I'll send you a little manifesto. So I'm just going to read some like random excerpts from throughout. It's a collage, and I have borrowed these. I've borrowed loads of this text, and I just want to share it with you again, basically. So this is from Future Notes Towards an Alternative, a manifesto. It says on the cover, but it's a manifesto of sorts. We could not compute your ideas of vulgarity. Your confused morality does not map onto ours. Our kinks and our cravings are sacred. Everything we touched was hard. Everything we touched was soft. Possibility is neither forever nor instant. It is not easy to sustain belief in its efficacy. Our world, for simplicity's sake. This is liquid desire spilling over the lip of the text in abundant excess. It says my internet is unstable. Can you hear me? Yeah. Abundant excess of unstable internet. We are slippy, morphing, and alterable. We create new groups, new forms and connections continually. We exist in gradations. We never question whether we are enough, we are abundant. We are local, nomadic, static. We love jargon and style. We love specificity. Local manners and dialects and tastes are blessings to be learnt. We deplore universals but provide universally. We are complete. We are in love. We are satisfied. We are full. Our senses inflamed are the most useful fruit. We make our decisions and we listen to each other. Our decisions hold weight, hold water. In our schools, we learn about love in all forms. We learn to question every generalization, to trust our experience. We learn how to understand, to fail, to forgive and accept. Our friends make our happiness. We know where to find the people we need. We teach our children to be unafraid, be eager to learn, to sit with their pain, to feel grief deeply and share it, to share everything. We live our lives in the name of pleasure. Our kinks and our cravings are sacred. Our friends make things and we share them. We move through the spaces of our cities freely. The truest direction comes from inside. Our cities were built for kissing in. Every street a part of our sexual geography. Cities of yearning and then total satisfaction. We cannot trespass, for all around is already our own. We don't confront issues, we destroy them. Theory and praxis like balance in solution. We weep with orality and literature. We resist memorialization. We do not need statues or monuments. Everything here is sculptural and soft. We hold every moment up gently, examine it caringly from all angles. We look and see everything as it appears. We see everything invisible that wants to be seen. To recommend gentleness on a broad basis is strictly philosophical. Be fierce. The source of your suffering is often the source of your strength. Don't wait for the rapture. Be the apocalypse. Dismantle your prejudices. Dismantle your governments. There is nothing to fear in what is unknown. It is only unknown temporarily. Your kinks and your cravings are sacred. What you must work on, how to make yourselves infinitely more susceptible to pleasure. Invert the order of things, invent everything again. This is apocalypse, revelation. You exist in gradations. Never question whether you are enough, you are abundant. Demand everything, take it. So you probably recognize some of my stolen lines from some faves there. Okay, so I'm going to read from Figure of Motion, which Luke and Sarah published so beautifully last year. It is a tiny, teeny weeny little pamphlet. To give you a bit of context, it sort of responds to the work of two artists, two women, Hannah Leighton-Boyce and Ruth Barker, whose work I first saw here in Manchester. I can show you, maybe you can see one of the sculptures there, an installation. So, I mean, it's not like, you don't really need to see the things, but these were the starting points, this exhibition in Manchester. So I'm going to sort of like jump about in the pamphlet. It's like in my head, I think that it's a circular space, and the poems sort of create this circular space and move in and out of each other. So I'm going to do that in my reading for you. I'm going to start with the first poem, which is also a bit of a collage as well. Do a lot of collaging, it seems. Other people's words are really good. So this is installation. Her body contradicts definition, packing paper and a monologue moving out from the wheel hub, a clothes pulley bringing in close, in connection, how what's oral resonates visually. Spokes point cloth openings, a rug, a figure, a mask making tones on the wing in denim. We are not seraphs, subject to the curves of the shell, reflected. I prop a dark glass against the edge of our world, where two masks record anechoic, gold leaf pressed into angles. Who is the voice they speak? A figure, a drying rack. There are particular circles of goddesses watching you move, every direction exploited. Syllables bloom and smile, and I want to say, to meditate sonic, what you do. Speak us to proximity. Blur ready-made chambers, and all of these circle shapes might fold us in milk, to voice you reflective, to feed. Corners mock curves, but the illusion convinces, milks all of her speaking. She disappears underground, colours untethered. We broke her apart. Did not find the world as the Absazat moves in and sees. The plaster cast body divided is planting white flags over confluence. Everyone must receive their allotted part, a rug, a figure, a mask. Join in when you can, just make the sounds. The sentence contains both directions. So the picture that I showed you sort of at the beginning, that's in the front of the pamphlet, you probably can recognize it, but it's like a reimagining of the winged Nike or the Victory statue, the ancient Greek statue. It's at the top of the stairs in the Louvre, so if you Google it, you'll know what I mean. And this one is made of like paper, and it was just this huge installation in a gallery here in Manchester, and it had a real sort of ritualistic feeling in the gallery space. So, I mean, I don't really know how to describe it. I wrote these poems about it, and the space was my starting point. So to just give you an into that, that was my starting point here. So this is called Victory, Two Ways. 1. See how here at the edge of the object, it isn't the end, but the scene where you join, face on, lips pursing a kiss's round O, and blowing hot torrents of air, so lungs gale cascades your sea salt from tongue, cheeks, roof. It flies, dances, flecks the prow, the hip points, thigh and breast, pressing her garment against her, chiton, tunic, and damp billows show Sappho's thin fire racing below skin. Violets stream out behind her from fabric's dark folds, cloak, hymation, so sails, and your wind layers feathers, not as nature or art, and her thunder moves up to meet yours. She's not trembling. 2. Some objects are objects and other, their edges, ends, walls without openings. The seam here's not fluid. Sing salt spray, she starts to dissolve, molded garments temporarily glued as paper, as tape. You're working on memory, can't stir this. She's hung and you're punctured, deflating. What's growing swells elsewhere and lives, but not here. This strength's origami, a trick, a sigh, admission, to be how, what you both. She's undressed and scarpered, cloak, hymation, discarded, bunched, and you are left longing. Thin fire that raced under skin only smoulders. You're waiting, layering, ineffectual wings. Silent, you're trembling. I haven't read these poems for ages, and it's like really strange to read them again. It's like coming back to like weird old distant friend sort of. So like I said, that I think that of this pamphlet as a space, maybe a circular space, like maybe a temple, maybe there are pillars in there, and there are some poems that have the same name. They're all called Pulse. I don't really know how to describe them, but they're like sound experiments of like my experience being a body in amongst bodies in a gallery space. It's our favorite word in poetry, bodies. Everything is a body, and here's some sound about it. Pulse. Corrosive cumulative content tricks, trip plows, stick tup, pulse powers, round repetition and the loud light sounds, salt skin, fish scale, glass snap, zinc. Silly, really. Okay. There are a few of those. I'll read you maybe another one later. You'll look forward to that. Okay, so something that I'm really into in your new book, Camilla, is the way that you are sort of engaging with these mythical women. I love those voices that you've got going on there. So I thought I would read one about, well, this poem is called Atagatis, Her Salt. Atagatis is often thought of as like the first mermaid. Maybe she was like an ancient Middle Eastern deity. Yeah, this is Atagatis, Her Salt. 1. The gallery floor carries her lying in pieces. Bone's eyes peer at your looking in ceramic and steel. She's all offcuts, residues, parts. She almost always isn't, but glitters still surface electrical cliches, despite her plucked smooth down ground feathers to powder and dried sea foam bottled, compressed tight, making lightless. Rolled horizons in multiple, melting mist into solid and preserved in smoked air, denying all possibility still inside her of liquid. 2. She was wanted stacked, tight sheath-dressed column, right out arms angled, like the altar floats, moves in the water. But camouflage disabale concrete again. We lie down in protest, in pieces, in the undergrowth, kitchen, desert, and forests. We're eating, we're looking, doves and fish, price lists and storage solutions. It rains, her flanks rise and fall with the atmosphere's weight. Residual music sings the kuliltu in moisture, sawed in, right up to the hilt. So the other sort of ancient mythical figure in this figure emotion is probably more famous. You probably know of her, maybe a bit more about her, Inanna, Mesopotamian goddess, famous goddess of love and war. So she crops up again in my pamphlet, so I just thought I would also read you this one. This is Inanna, Her Face. 1. Her eyes, ears turned above, set from and turned below. Soft to wedded stillness concrete's children's absent hands. She's given, she'll gather back all dawn has sundered. Wall kisses, speech marks, shells, chants beneath her gaze, utterance engulfs. Lapis lazuli, sky, sky pomegranate neons, chanting moss breathes breathing moss. Oil, sweet violet, sweet cedar coalesce her colours. She becomes, she gathers child's making unto others. Would usher mother, where a child might draw. Technician might make, might knowing may skill, but otherwhere. She gathers deep sound, shroud, dressed offcuts, dressed purple in folds. 2. But sweet mother looms bust, corners snagged sentences, spilt sickly clovers, slick juniper sticky, pushed my face into a blossoming kisses, mouth filled mulch value, tasting emulsion and think, playing, not catching and carrying, co-opted sky, star jammed in packaging, saccharined apricots, jellies dated, dissolve, but meat rots exquisite when hook hung on walls. Exquisite. Imagine giving and giving, baby's breath scattered all round as a filler, painted all white, some starting over again, some rebirths, aborted libation, wine, vodka, soap. Joss sticks, import, burns, opens, faux holiday window. Pulse, pulse. Low sound, languid, bloom soon sparks. Spirals, a curvature, echo, staccato, stacking a ratcheting crotchets, moving toward one point, many lines of a light, of a semi-breathe singing. Okay, I'm just going to read one more little poem for you. I mean, it's not little. Maybe it's a bit longer, but I'm going to read one more poem for you. I thought I would finish with this one because I feel a bit more like it's moving in a similar landscape to some of your maybe walks in your new book, Camilla. So I thought it'd be a good way to pass the baton on. Thanks for listening, guys. I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of the reading. And yeah, thanks. This has been nice. I can't find the poem now because I'm garbling. Okay, this is called Little Nothing. She walks herself out into the garden. She works herself out into the garden. It is open, closed is the garden. So to leave herself out in the garden, in the grass, in the earth, in the stuff of the garden, she works herself out into the garden. What's between leaves, between fingers and teeth, between feathers and faith, between thighs? Down soothes inside and the exhale makes hot, hands full of lace, mouth full of seeds. And she lays herself down flat in the grass where the land lifts and seals with her back, and she works herself out into the garden. What's between blades beneath nails? What's between roots, between feathers? And the weight of her plumage draws her head to the ground, to the grass, to the earth, with her mouth full of seeds, hands full of flowers. Skin blisters a lace where leaves breach her outline, but she opens her arms and starts digging in to the garden with her mouth full of seeds, hands full of mulch under fingernails, lichen and moss. Strix blinks eyes shadow in the cowl of the join, where the river flows low for the body, and she works herself out in to the garden, blackens her bracken to soil back to the earth, to loosen, to siphon, to fallow, in Queen Anne, out, slow to the ground, abort into sky, sifting silt into sand in the current, and the body can fly, swimming deep in the river of earth in the tide, and the time growing forward against and against and against. She walks herself out into the garden. She works herself out into the garden. It is open, closed is the garden. She leaves herself out in the garden, in the grass, in the earth, in the stuff of the out, in the out, in the garden. Thanks for listening, guys.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jazmine. You actually finished with one of my favourite poems by you. But I love that one from sorry, the one dedicated to Callie. I love that poem. Yeah, thank you so much. Right, so I'll introduce Camilla now. It's my great pleasure to introduce Camilla. Camilla Nelson is a British language artist, small press publisher, creative programmer, and freelance academic. She has a PhD in performance writing from Falmouth University and Dartington College of Arts. Her work explores the materiality of language in page-based poetry, sound work, installation, and performance. And actually saw Camilla perform several years ago for the first time at Tears in the Fence Festival, and it was just a really remarkable moment. Like, I still feel like I'm processing the performance, and like there was something about it that I've learned from Camilla, and I'm learning still about performing poetry, and I'm really excited to bring her on now. So I'll let Camilla take the stage, the Zoom stage.
Thank you, Sarah. Wow, what a lovely introduction. That's so touching. And thanks everybody for being here. We've got swifts in the background. You can hear them. Yeah, so thank you so much to Luke and Sarah for doing such a great job. Like, this is as you can see, it's quite a big thing. This map is the overlay of all the 5 walks that make up the book. And as Jazmine was saying, it's interwoven with these different kind of female mythical figures who are kind of responding to mostly anger, mostly quite angry. But I won't tell too much about it. The idea with the walking was that in the first walk, I sort of was just writing, and it wasn't really a project. I wasn't thinking about it as a project. So the first walk was more kind of sitting and writing as I went. And then I kept wanting to do these big, long walks. And so I developed a slightly different style, not sort of self-consciously, but I was more interested in how, like, what happens to language as the body moves through landscape, and sort of mapping that through the words. So that's what I'm trying to do in this. And there's a little bit more blurb on my website, and there's a bit of a kind of context on the Guillemot site as well. So if you want to have a bit more read of the background, then you can go ahead. I'm going to dip through the first 2 parts of the first 2 walks, just to give you a flavour of the different type of writing that is going on, and hopefully that will not take too long. Okay. Thanks so much for coming. I know it's really sunny outside, so I really appreciate you sitting inside with the Zoom. Okay. Epic. Can you all hear me first? Is that loud enough? Yeah. Okay, good. Epic. Let's get one thing straight. I'm embarrassed, not embarrassed, to be writing this word work weft of man, woman, child, as if it were something worth worrying about. As if it were a Bayer epic for the masses rather than the jostling weave of my own rambling mind. But if his words are worth the time, money, and space, then why the hell aren't mine? Sad sack Penelope, they call me. Beautiful, rich, intelligent, odd sock Circe, witch weaving spells, Medusa, monstrous ugly, thread dancing Ariadne, condemned as sideshows for men that stop along their way, working our lines in their shadow. Not anymore. Walk 1. Mere Downs to Maiden Bradley, Wednesday the 15th of May 2019. I find myself composing as I walk. I'm not so sure of. A crow corks above me, and the wind plays shoals of fish through grey ploughed fields. Heat haze ripples the green. A choking gulp distinguishes the rasp of the pheasant from the panting of a worn-out dog. I find myself thinking of the hawthorn is powder perfect, the rape is neon yellow. Colours change, flax blue, apple blossom over, lilac turning, horse chestnuts proud white flame. Pheasant starting to sound like a dog again. I'm walking far today, maybe 15 miles, making the most of the sun while we have it. And when I go out to say goodnight to the jungle of my garden, I think of under the same sky. I know that writing is often of necessity intense and lonely. And if it is, I'm thinking. Penelope. And here I am, condemned to darn and weave a life while he's off word working and drinking his way into old age and blindness. I'm trying to make a fabric for us all to fit, but he keeps stealing my punctuation. Leave, leave and come with me, he says. I will provide nothing, nothing. A Cambridge professor once came up to me at a wedding and told me how proud I should be to support such a genius. Wasn't I lucky to be lit up by his shadow? Not on your fucking life. What about my fire? Where's the space and time for my words when I'm not washing and bathing, wiping mouths and asses, soothing scraped knees, offering solace and breaking up fights? Finding money for food, clothes, and worrying. Watching the clock and wondering if he'll be back on time or ever, drunk, with money or without. Fuck that shit. He should be so lucky to have me weaving his web for him. I'm the dark night to his fucking star. I am the air you breathe, the page on which you're writing. Fuck him and fuck you too, I should have said. But I just cried furious, angry tears, and he thought I was mad. Walk 2. Mere Maiden Bradley Loop, Sunday 9th of June 2019, 12:30 to 9:30 p.m. I'm just a granite stone outcrop, hard chalk. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, etc. Stone tabletop, park bench, mere footpath, mid-Wilts way, will I be view, old one day? Birds answer anyhow, before answer, call, shout, ah, ah. There it is, bike whir, baby bleat, mummy, mummy. They're all gone under the hill, crying, make it your own this time. Clouds pass, crying. Make it your own. Sheep sees me, mummy, mummy, run. Ah, ah, ah. Run and brown grow the grasses now, horizoning prairie grey cloud and sacking on the black stack of something grass built, hay built, knock it, knock it. They have all gone under the parliament of ah, ah, and moo. signalling complete. Grey feather, leafleting, daisy-like, flower none, overflow of grief turned rivulet, iron strong, firstborn cascade of heart-born heaving, cascade of heart-spun grieving, stomach helps with that, insists. An upturned sieve might be useful in this intestinal summoning. Flies gather, ah, ah, pitch, rise, bracken scatter, ah, differentiates one from the other, flattening goose voice, and travel, over the mountain she goes, nan, back to the running, over the small voicing, almost a heaving, pheasant sidling song, flies past, busy with nothing. It all comes to a bladder, emptying song. What have you hidden under your hat, young man? Show it me. No. Gliding a pestilent opening, drip feed 1 penny, 2 penny, drop 1, pearl 1, drop 1, fence post, cure, keep it in your bag anyway, wipe it up, that's it, clean mouth, all gone, open wide, all gone, that's it, good girl. Nothing matters anywhere. Goat parsley, ice cream van, over the hill and far away, bleat for it, calling you, drip, let it all go, let it all out now. Lamb dot clouds, keep it out black, or was it a spider dropped off, dropped, ooh, the head rolls and weaves a neural calling, small airborne, anyway, bird trill, let the moon take you, sun in a single flat gate, or was it a petal? Heart ease and walk a bit, pink-souled confession. You don't own me. You don't own any of these islands, to invite or not to invite. That is the question, not yours to ask. You don't own me. You don't own any of this walking, writing, mine shaft of we were here, but we were here, but continue before you came, we were here, wind, bird, everything. Sticky weed, a song from it. Is this a don't stop me now? Don't stop me now, 'cause I'm having a good time, Sticky weed and flower, didn't know you could glide your way out of it. Coming into land, airfield right, 'cause I'm having a good time now. Red lorry, yellow lorry, blue lorry, car collecting something or other, wings, lost pen. Is it a fence or something else I'm sitting on? Sticky weed in flower. Edelweiss, every morning you greet me, small and white, clean and bright, sticks all over your clothes. I can't carry on like this. Stomach calling, at some stage, empty me, bat-winged bird on elder after elder, radioing constantly, come in, are you nearly there yet? Twitter on the wing it, and glide. Seemed to be walking on the wing, didn't know you could lead a plane like a halterneck pony. Come along, follow me, follow down to the hollow, and there we will. Stopped, turning. Throaty interject, must be choking. End of the cow parsley now, though, thank God that's over. Elliot, all of it, lilacs a penny. Feed the birds, 2p a bag. 2p a bag. Feed the birds. birds. That's what she cries, while overhead our birds fill the skies. Come in, come in. Altercation, airborne, motor somewhere other than pheasant intake, train check, high throaty spelling of it, stomach rushing upward into mid-back. Kidneys, is it? Kidneys, is it? Stone strong, make a soup of it. Might be 6 before I get to you. Homespun proverb, darn your undies in the lamplight. Cotton me another. And I really must get up on my feet. All this dangling around in a purple, not very promising. Stomach says something must give me a something or other soon. When we reach the next hilltop, will you feed me? When we next wind down the window, call out for a place to stay, or even just a short, sharp something or other. Will you airfield it away? Before and after, headlight increasingly incapacitated, spider, white, income. Towards change, isn't it? No, field or fence incumbent on bird flap behind me here. I am behind myself with this writing, constant stopping, must walk, tug, yellow, something or other. Anyway, I am from a different direction. Radio, sibilant, flap on, a wing beat, special elder. Is it particular, seed sweet? Is it sweet to eat? Or insects anyway, heart sore, stomach sag, both say it's time to move before the clouds come. Quick now, here now, poppies maybe white-winged, rise and hemorrhaging pens and the patter of rain to the trees. Won't make it in time, won't make it. Poppy me this wing flap, red crepe paper and a black button to staple it together, to gather all that I am, all that I do, all that I ever was, I offer now to you. Parsley a response among grass and emptying gut. This fly's insistent, make a pair of wings, will you? Or can't you just come here to me? Here to me, pig, here to me. I can't just gather all that I am, all that I do, all that I ever was, I offer now to conveyor belt affection. I'm sure that I ghost in a seed pod splayed above the crepe red of rain. Rain, cessing, stop, will you just stop, will you stop? Pheasant, how many hidden in these grasses? Bladder burst, a watery rush of gathering grasses, sudden bird shattering, simult, quorum bee on full flat clover. I am sitting under a blur cloud, singing a cloud song. Do I look like a cloud song? Do I look like a cloud? Oh, the reading went so well, so glad. Sink into the colloquial, act your little off. I didn't know, I don't know. Anyhow, act like a child, cloacal shiver, green fly, beak grab, call it a kiss, but really all that fuzz and reaching tongue, ugh, licking it to ugh, really, can't you just anyway, think you would have anyway, shave it all off, but still, Moonface, gonna catch you, snatch you, hold you, scold you, pick him up and engine number rumbles into bees, or is it so many? Who knew he had undone so many? Soaring, something or other, combine harvester or something clanking over there, wire, whip and wheel, something or other itching behind my right ear, must keep coming back to the, don't stop me, can't quite make it out. Are you or are you not? Hedgefly, mouth suspent, flagrant, gathering of grass underfoot and hogweed, broadleaf gathering. Drop it now. Let it all go. Let it all go. Let it all out now. Not before lunch. along and down and up, and then you can. Chicken and cheese, apple and rust to your glider, engineing it ear by ear, poppy, 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 rains back. Can you make it stop now? Can you make it stop now? Apple and cheese, please, apple and cheese, please, and chicken it. Can you make it stop now? There's crying inside of me. Meh, meh, meh. I can't find you. Pheasant under beech, nut, nut. Why can't you? Why can't you? Pheasant over the shoulder at chicken bone, foxes. Hallway, or was it foxes? Or was it or was it that instead? On the other side again, rainfall, can't you come find me under my tree? I'll wait for you right here. Can't you? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Camilla. That was amazing. There are some comments coming in. I was really pleased to hear you making the bird noises. Something that people won't know is that we had a conversation about how to spell the pheasant sound in the book.
I know, and I still feel like a pheasant sound is one of the hardest sounds to make. I suddenly realized as I was reading through, I was like, oh my God, I still haven't learned how to make the pheasant noise. So I'm going to have to practice.
It was brilliant. Thank you. And thank you, Jazz, as well.
Yeah, thank you.
We've got lots of questions. Well, we've got lots of comments coming. I'll read some comments in while we get some questions started as well. So I'll go back to some of the ones for Jazz. Jazz had some really nice ones. That last one of yours, Jazz, people absolutely loved it. Lots of people saying that was their favorite. Jess saying such beautiful readings, particularly the last one. Thank you for these pulsating poems. That's Elzbieta. Susie, love the works out in that poem. Eleanor saying wonderful, thank you. And Richard saying great reading, and Sarah Dunn saying awesome, that was beautiful. Camilla, even right from the beginning, we had I love your, from Rachel, we had I love your reading, Camilla, and the broken moments from inner to outer landscape. Richard, absolutely lovely work. Oh, Rachel also described it as a mindfulness epic, which I quite like too. And Lara saying a beautiful voice while you were singing there. And we've got lots more coming into, wow, Sarah Dunn, fantastic, Camilla, loved it. Amazing from Tanya, amazing from Caroline as well. Brilliant readings from Jess, epic from Andrew. Absolutely fabulous readings and great animal impressions from Aidan. Some of the best calls I've ever heard from Peter Larkin. Amazing sounding, singing, bleating, magical and extremely talented from Eloise. Aidan, one of your crow calls was punctuated by a pigeon flying into the window alongside me. Great. Camilla, that was perfect pacing and humour too, polyphonic fragments into whole. There's a question there from Richard. Question, interested in how Jazmine and Camilla construct their poems. I've got a few more that I've been making notes that have come into direct messages too, which I'll come to, but maybe we could start with that one. Should we start with Jazz? How you construct your poems?
If I'm completely honest, I was not really aware that I was going to be participating in the Q&A bit. But I mean, yeah, my poems are constructed. How they are constructed is really a mystery to me. I don't think that there is a methodology that I could return to or that I could accurately describe to you. But like I said, that pamphlet was started in the gallery, and my recent pamphlet, the manifesto thing, is also was born in a gallery. So I think that I spend a lot of time with visual art and just in different spaces and just taking lots of notes down. And with my notebook, writing and writing and writing again, and then before you know it, there's something that might be a poem. I don't know. That's the best I can say. Hang out in the art galleries, maybe my advice. I'm sure Camilla has something better to say. Oh, but while I'm talking, can I just say how amazing the animal noises were? That was incredible. The whole reading was amazing, but the animal noises, brilliant.
like I'm a bit self-conscious that the animal noises are stealing the show, but I totally agree that in my normal writing I would say I get a lot out of going into art galleries as well, for sure. But obviously in this one it was really, I can't remember who said kind of like mindfulness sort of stream of consciousness. It was really, I was really trying to write down truthfully, as truthfully as I could, everything that came into my body in whatever kind of way that was, whether that was, you know, through my eyes, through my skin, through ears, and you know, fragments of song that came about as a result of that, or you know, trying to keep the animal sounds in there. I mean, yeah, I feel a bit bad for the animals that I wasn't including sound wise. There were probably way more that I didn't work out a kind of way of writing them down or reproducing them. But I think one of the important things for me in this book was to try and keep a sense of other than human, you know, that all of the other stuff that is going on, that it's never just a human moving through a landscape, it is a landscape moving through a human, and how that happens. So really I think that the kind of organizing structure was just the body, as Jazz says, we all love bodies, the body moving through the environment and the stuff that happens as a result of that. But it was very largely unedited, which parts of which I'm like, I feel particularly bad for Luke having to sort of typeset the whole thing. but I wanted to keep a sense of the sort of like, you know, the mind as it is, like uncensored. It's not fully uncensored, but particularly in the first walk, there's a lot of blank spaces that are actually whited out words. So there is a sense of kind of censorship that comes in as well. But I tried to be as honest as possible in the rest.
Brilliant. And so now we've made Jazz uncomfortable with the questions. We've got another one for Jazz from Harriet, which was quite early on, which I'd love to ask Jazz about pronouns in her work, especially the we voice, and how does that relate to individual and collective identity in the work? Easy one to start.
I mean, that sounds like a question for a critic, not a question for a poet. I don't know if I can answer that. I know that I mentioned a couple of times that I collage quite a lot. I think to me, poetry has always been such a collective endeavor. I have no idea how much language I'm borrowing, but I'm pretty sure it's like 100% of it. Sometimes I'll push that, you know, to the nth degree by making a collage. Maybe that's why I use like this multiple voice quite a lot. I suppose I don't really trust like singular positions. Like Camilla was saying, I think this is also why I really like this work of Camilla's, because you can feel like the way that everything is connected together in really, really complicated and kind of messy ways as well. And there's like, it's like difficult to do that. And it's maybe quite easy, maybe too easy to just pretend you can occupy a singular position, and then that's like misleading, and it's maybe, I don't know, wrong is like too much of a grand word, but that doesn't make any sense. Something about networks, something about community, something about something else. Thanks for the question.
Camilla, we just had one through from Elzbieta, which is question to Camilla. Could you, two questions. Could you say something about the page as your score, and also read your comments about what happens to language as the body moves through landscape? What surprised you most and how you tried to render it in your text? 3 questions.
Oh, thank you. Page as your score. Okay, well, one of the things that I didn't explain, I realized well as I was doing it, but is the sound of the, I mean, it's exaggerated, but that's roughly the rhythm of my walking breath as I'm moving. So I wanted to have that in there. And so the dotted lines that you can see, so here and here, are the spaces of walking. But sometimes I was writing as I was walking, so it's not kind of perfect with that. It's a tricky one because usually I use the blank space as punctuation, as a kind of pause, but then sometimes, as I was very aware as I was performing, I do want to kind of run on and not observe the blank space. But yeah, usually the blank space is a pause. And yeah, and also I think there's something about kind of the eye and giving the word space. I find it quite difficult to absorb like large visual chunks of text. So yeah, that's probably as much as I can say about the score part. But oh goodness, what was the other part? I've lost it now. What was the other part of the question, Luke?
The other part was your comments about what happens to language as the body moves through landscape. What surprised you most, and how did you try to render it in your text?
Okay, well, I mean, this is a kind of interesting one because you may all have a different response to this, but I had thought that I would come across as completely bonkers when I was writing my just like stream of consciousness down. And you may all think, yeah, you still did sound totally bonkers. But I thought when I read it back that, oh, wow, you don't actually sound as bonkers as you feel. So that was probably the most surprising thing. Yeah, that is literally the answer to that question.
Now, I don't know if it's worth, I'm going to read Tom's question out because I'm not sure whether it was answered. I think some of it was answered in what you were saying, but I'll just ask it anyway, just in case there's anything to add, Camilla. Could you say a little about the relationship between the work on the page and the work in performance, e.g., which aspects are emphasized in the performance that might be less clear on the page, like humor and the animals, and which things in this particular work are maybe more forthcoming on the printed page? And then there's all these compound questions, and how both those forms affect how you write or think the poem.
Okay, wow. Well, I think the thing that occurred to me actually is the least obvious is the song bits, because unless you recognize them as a particular song, a lot of the time you will just read them as words. So that's probably the least clear thing, and the thing that comes out most in the performance. I think probably similarly with the animal noises, I sort of, like with the kind of it's written MEURGH, so you get a sense of that being written as a sound. But a lot of the raven stuff is like, I think I write ravens as cork, CAWK, and core for any, like my corvid knowledge is not very good, so I was just sort of like listening to things and just kind of writing roughly down what I thought I was hearing. So core is a kind of corvid of some variety, and again, it looks like a sound, but I might read it as core rather than which is what I would perform it as. So there is quite a lot of slippage, and I think one of the things actually that Mark maybe introduced me to when I was doing my PhD was the fact that there doesn't need to be a direct correspondence between the performance and the printed page, that actually the two things can be separate things, and that has continued to be really important to me. So the performing of this does feel very different to the reading of it, and likewise with even just the tone of voice and the emotion that comes in when I'm performing it feels much more direct than perhaps comes across when you might be reading it off the page. I don't know how I'm doing with all the compound questions there. Which things in particular, and maybe for have I answered quite a lot of that?
I think that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. I liked when typesetting as well. You like that the sheep noise that you just mentioned, when you spell it out, it reads like disgust. It's like
yeah. Well, and then sometimes there is an ugh, which is just like a human ugh, you know, is that tired? Is it disgust? Is it, you know, and what's the relationship between that and then the words and then the animal noises? And I think that's another thing, like I like this sense of like continuity of sound, that there's, you know, there's the sonic landscape all the time, and it all means something, but just not always linguistically.
Aidan has said your COVID knowledge may not be great, but your COVID impressions are. I did worry about your voice. We had a little question again, I think, which you touched on to a degree, from Robert Hampson, which was, could Camilla say more about the whiting out of words? What's behind this self-censoring? Which again, when typesetting, it was quite interesting because you import it into the software, you get all of the whole thing, so you lose all the whited out and blacked out words, so you see the whole text and have to start again.
I think the whiting out was a sort of I find I was kind of really trying to, I mean, that first walk, the first walk one was really a kind of a writing through of emotion, and I wasn't thinking about like reproducing it or publishing it or anything, and I still feel quite nervous of my like prose voice, or sort of myself as a prose writer, and I find it difficult to judge when there is this kind of, you know, essentially what I accuse Stephen Deedless of like being navel gazing and kind of completely over the top emotional kind of suffusion just coming out onto the page, and how, you know, how much of it is a catharsis for you, the writer, and how much it's going to be helpful, interesting to the reader. And so I think that kind of whiting out at the beginning is a kind of not quite showing my workings. It's sort of gesturing towards showing the self-censorship that goes into publishing, I suppose, that that there are parts of the self that you feel like is not helpful to share with the audience or with a reader.
Thank
but,
you.
but kind of marking the fact that they are withheld, you know, that they're there but not there. Sorry Luke.
That's great. I think that's actually all of the questions just about. We've got one little more of a comment than a question. Mark Leahy, it's interesting to have that sense of the characters in the prose sections or the myth sections, and how clearly these came across in the reading performance differently to the documentary sense of the recording of the walk. Sound stroke thought, not a question.
Yeah, so, no, they did feel very different. And actually I'd started writing them before it was sort of all written around the same time, but I'd started writing those parts before the walk, and then I started kind of walking through them and then kind of writing through those other voices. So yeah, in an ideal world, I don't want to kind of undermine the work, but in an ideal world, I think I would have like really interwoven it more and had those characters playing out more in the walks, but I didn't know how to do that and be honest and kind of like fulfill my goal of being honest about what was happening as I walked in terms of language. So yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm going to just post up a link to Epic now and say thank you to everyone, to Jazmine and to Camilla, and thank you to all of you for coming along tonight. Our next, well, two things actually. One is we had, there was a little thing on Open Country today with one of our books, Sea Change by Katrina Porteous and Phoebe Power, so you can look back at that. We were posting like crazy the two things today, which was this event this evening and the Radio 4 thing, so you can go and have a listen to that if you like. And the other is that we have our next reading, which is Nick Stringer in the middle of August. I think Nick's been here this evening, and we'll be announcing that very soon. So yeah, thank you everyone, thank you for the readings, and thank you all for coming, and hopefully see you again next time.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jazz. Bye bye, everybody.